The diode goes like this. Prevents arcing inside the relays. See if any of this makes any real difference. Yeah, so there's another failure there. Okay, so let's discuss at least the solution. I think that's gonna look pretty cool. This is the switch area right here, this little thing. Underneath the fingernail, I just impaled myself with the spring. Ugh. Legs. This is the other stuff. Got burned out because of these actuators. We are now back to the shiatsu motor cutting out in the middle of the sequence. We have to take this all apart and basically start all over. There's a screw here in the heel that's got it screwed to the PVC inside, and that's the only one I really need to take off. The diode goes like this. But before I do that, I've got to replace the LED in this boot because it has burned out thanks to all this nonsense. Okay, so now it works. Didn't work earlier. Is it reliably working? Yep, all right. That's supposed to be it. I'll leave this off and do the other one, and then we'll do a test. Well, let's see if this junk works. It is, okay. All right. The issue is to get these two things as far away from each other as possible. Okay, so we're having some success here finally. Just by separating the components a little bit seems to have helped, and everything's working right now. So I think that's pretty damn cool, and it damn well should be after all this work. And there it fails. So we've had 2 successful runs and then a fail. So at least it resets and doesn't hang. Okay, so at this point, I have separated the Arduinos, the Unos, from the relay boards way over here. This is, I don't know, almost 20 inches apart. I still have to do something with this, but I think we're ready for a test and see if any of this stuff made any difference. I also elongated the power cord, so all of this stuff is far away from this as I can get it. That should work. Well, let's give it a shot and see what happens. Well, that's a good sign. One of the relays at least is working. I don't think the other one's ready yet because it doesn't have a PIR on it. This one takes longer to warm up because of no PIR. There we go. I guess the next step is to see if any of this makes any real difference on the prop itself. So, despite my best efforts, I can't seem to get this prop 100% reliable. It works right some of the time. Most of the time, I don't know. We've had 2 failures and 2 successes, so I think it's just an arbitrary thing. I don't really know when it's going to fail. Yeah, so there's another failure there. So all this really didn't seem to do much of anything, which sucks because it took a lot of time to separate all this stuff. So, fun project. One interesting thing that keeps happening is that as long as that second relay that operates the legs doesn't turn on, this whole thing works fine. As soon as that one comes on, it starts causing these reset issues. Very, very strange, because that the Arduino that's getting reset, it doesn't even have anything to do with the legs. It's the other one, the main one. I'm wondering if there's some kind of AC feedback or something coming on through the relays, through the second set of relays. I don't know. I'm thinking I might just take the AC power completely out of the second set of relays and wire up 12 volt, because I have a couple of other ideas. Instead of putting that light in the chest and carving out ribs, I can go ahead and wire in those Christmas lights that are behind the chair into the chest like I originally was going to do, and then use 12 volts to manipulate some other things. I've got some other ideas, but whenever both relays work, it gets reset. I did add a 1 microfarad capacitor across the power for the primary. Maybe it's helping. Nope, makes no difference. So I think that's the other way to solve the problem, is get that AC off the second relay, so I'm going to do that instead. So despite my best efforts to get this working, I've had little success. So doing some more investigation and referring to the forums, talking to this fellow Matt on the Halloween forums, I came up with this. This is a snubber, an RC snubber or snub circuit, and what it's supposed to do is suppress arcing in the contacts of the relay, essentially, which we think is what's causing the reset of the Arduino. And what it is essentially is a 100 ohm resistor wired in series with a 0.1 microfarad capacitor. So I'm going to throw this onto the relay, the one that switches the power on and off, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so there is the RC snub or snubber. As long as I don't have the legs connected here, everything works fine. But even if I connect just one leg, this is one of the legs to the 12 volt actuator, I get reset issues, and it's oddly enough it's always in the same spot. Right now I have AC disconnected to the second plug, so I'm not even running any AC through this at all. This is just 12 volts right now. None of this stuff is connected to this, and this is not connected to that in any fashion. So just 12 volts running through this set of relays. And that's where it fails every time, in the same spot, right near the end of the sequence. And still having a reset issue, so that not worth the hour-long drive it took me to get to Radio Shack and back. And I'm kind of out of ideas with this at this point. Don't really know what else to do with this thing. Well, guess it's back to the forums to see what I can find out. Okay, so let's discuss at least the solution, and it may have been all of these things that I've done, but what I did first of all was add what's called snubbers onto each one of the relays. This is the one that switches, this relay switches power to this relay, which goes back and forth. I can't add one here because all of the contacts are used. This is another relay for one of the lamps or the lights or the strobe or something, and this was the last relay for the beacon over here. So just to be sure, I added them to all of the relays that I could, which didn't solve the problem, but may have helped. I don't know. I know that in all future builds that I'm switching AC, I'm going to be definitely adding those. It was also brought to my attention these are probably the wrong type of capacitors. I should be using X2 capacitors. I'm not an electronics guru, despite all of this mess. All I know about electricity I learned in my high school class. I learned what X2 meant, but I've forgotten already because it's just not all that important to me. So I don't know. I'm using these. Anyway, the solution ended up being, or the issue ended up being attributed to this not getting enough power. And during all of the switching, in conjunction with all of the switching this thing was doing, and all of this coming off of the same 12 volt 8 amp power supply, despite that being more than sufficient, apparently it's not. There was also discussion about putting capacitors onto the input voltage areas here on the Arduino. And I tried that. 100 microfarad capacitor was recommended. I didn't have that. I tried a 220, and I also tried, I think it was like an 87 or something, and that didn't seem to help. I took those off, and doesn't seem to make a bit of difference. Again, so onto the solution was several videos ago I made this hacked up USB cable back when I was having problems with the Shiatsu motor resetting the circuit, and I supplied power separately to the relay here. And normally on this relay, if you look on this one, there's a little jumper here, and that takes the power that comes in from the Arduino board. So power comes in here, goes over here, jumps through this jumper and powers these relays. But if you remove that jumper, you can effectively power the relays separately. So this is positive 12 volts, 5 volts. These are 5 volt relays. This is 5 volts coming in. This is a ground. And these grounds are connected here. All of these wires are grounds on this cable. I've got grounds coming out of this thing everywhere. This is actually a ground. This is a ground, or a negative if you want to call it, I suppose. And this is also negative, and they're all tied together up here. Ground connected there, all the grounds tied together, going back to this Uno as well as this one, and that was the solution to get this working. So separate power supply on the relays is something else I think that should be added to the requirements for this project, just because of all of the issues I have. I would say overall you're going to want RC snubbers for your AC switching, separate power supply for your relays, diodes for any 12 volt solenoids or anything like that that you're going to be switching. Those will go near the actual things that you're switching. I'm using actuators here in the legs. You've seen that in previous videos. Diodes are across the positive and negative. Power comes in like this. The diode is right here, and power continues down. So it's wired in parallel, not in series. And all of that seems to be the solution. There is one other thing too that you could add here. that was brought to my attention. They're called varistators or varstators. I'm not sure how to say it because I don't remember the exact name. But they're effectively surge suppressors. And they would go on any 12 volt things that you're switching, much like these. Same principle, but you would wire them in on a 12 volt switching, like right here for the leg actuators. We would put them there and they suppress power surges. I don't have any of those, and the diodes are supposed to stop all of that too, but I guess it could be an added thing. So I know that was abundantly unclear, but that's the best I can explain this, because as I said, my electronics knowledge is fairly limited, probably too limited to be involved in something of this magnitude. But there you go. As it stands now, we have AC connected to only this outlet. We're going to be removing this outlet. We're going to be actually taking this whole thing apart and mounting this plug up here somewhere. And I've come up with another idea. So I was in the dollar store the other day and came across these cool little things. And they've got various settings here. We've got 2 of them. And there's like a slow pulsing and different things, but they're just I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 LEDs in this clear plastic tube with a couple of smaller batteries in here. I don't really know what the current is on these or the voltage. I have to check that out and see. But I was thinking it would be pretty neat to take these and put them in some kind of container and mount those on the top of the chair to look like, I don't know, some kind of electricity related deal. And I went searching over in Home Depot and found cool light cover, and then I went to the dollar store when I bought these and found this Gatorade bottle, which I think is actually pretty neat. So with that inside there, and I'm going to use some spray paint to frost this. We got frosting paint. I think we'll have a pretty cool looking thing. Now, I hate using anything that's battery operated, so I probably won't be doing that, depending upon what this voltage is. I don't know if I could get away with throwing 12 volts at it, but if this is 1.5, this is only going to be 6 volts right here, or excuse me, 4.5 volts. So I don't know how much each one of these batteries is worth. So I'll take them out and find out. Now the way these work is there's a little button right here that changes the pattern. So when I press it down, the thing changes to a different thing, or actually, I don't know if it ever shuts off. Yeah, there's an off setting. But I was thinking that I've noticed that once you press it and hold it, the thing stays on indefinitely. It won't ever shut off. Otherwise, it does have an auto shut off. At least one of these does. And if I did that with a relay, if I just took this button out and used a relay to do this, I could actually click the relay to get the pattern that I want, and then have the relay stay on to get that pattern. So let's say like during the ambient portion, I could have the relay normally closed so that the switch is always on, and then toggle it a couple of times and get whatever pattern I want. And then even when the ambient's running, let's say I want this during the ambient, you know, that might be kind of neat during the ambient portion. And then once the guy's activated, I can click the relay twice and have it do that. I thought that would be kind of cool. You know, I could even have it warming up to that right in the very beginning. So this during the ambient, then this, then during the electrocution, this. So what I'm going to do now is solder the connections in this RC snubber. That's the resistor capacitor. One down. Okay, so what I just did was added some wire onto these, and I'm going to take them and attach them to the relays like this on top, and then these wires are gonna fold over and bend into the relay contacts right here. So this is the finished product, and that will hook right into the relays. I'm gonna do that with the rest of them and then reconnect them. So here it is with the 3 snubbers all attached. I added the wires on there. You may be thinking, why did I even bother? Because the pins that came out of these components were too thin to be held in by the clamps on each relay, so I added in the same gauge wire that I've used for everything else. That's why I did that, and it kind of neatens it up a little bit, although it is kind of goofy. And there you go. So all 3 AC relays protected. This one, of course, I can't do because it switches both ways. It's always on one way or the other. That's for controlling the shiatsu motor. I've just got to clean all this mess up and get this stuff wherever I'm finalizing it here. More fascinating footage. I really should put a couple of screws in these stupid things, because this tape is going to invariably fail, like it's failing right here. I don't know if I'm ever going to reposition, so let's just wait.
Yeah.
Wait on that, because I'm sure when I'm done with all this shit, none of this stuff is going to work. Do you want to learn how to strip some wire?
Sure.
Do you know how to strip wire?
I think so.
Alright, let's see. I'll show you. Ready? Mm-hmm. You put this in there. You don't need very much right here. These should be small. You pinch it together
and pull.
And pull. Oh, look at you. Look at you stripping wires like a pro. You're better than me. Okay, so off camera, took a razor, cut these slats here into the chest plate, and then cut them out with these little scissors, and didn't do too much to the durability or the strength of it, but it gives a pretty cool effect. So this is what it looks like, just held up against the light back here. I think that's going to look pretty cool, and I've decided to just go ahead and use the existing Christmas lights. I'm going to peel all of these off the back here and run them up into the spine and into the body cavity, and it should look very similar to the legs, but it'll look like ribs. It'll come out pretty cool, I think. That's pretty neat. I wonder if I put a piece of tin foil on the back here to reflect this light, it wouldn't look better. Try lining them up in the ribs. See what I get. I think it looks better just with the ribs. That looks too fake to me. Too fake. I'll take this piece of cardboard, cut it to the size of the torso here, and either tape it up, make it one piece, spray paint it silver, or put some aluminum foil on it, and have that reflect light out the back. That should work pretty nicely. Now let's try tinfoil for the fun of it. All right, there we go. I think what I'll do is maybe attach that with a couple of zip ties. I think that looks pretty good. Nice effect. Pretty neat. Along with the legs. Before I try to do anything with these little toy things, I need to find out how much voltage this is. I'm not exactly sure how much these little button batteries put out. I think it's 1.5 volts. Well, let's find out. I'd say it's like maybe 3 volts together. That's pretty low. So it is like 3.5, maybe 4 volts. And I've got a 5 volt power supply here that seems to do the trick. They are brighter. Maybe it's supposed to be that much. I was thinking it'd be like 4.5 if each one of those things was 1.5 volts. So we'll go with that. They're only $1 if I destroy them. Maybe I should just tap off of that power instead. That might be a good idea. Power I'm using for the relays, which is this thing, 5 volt, 1 amp. I will have to simulate the switch because just turning the power on and off doesn't do anything. It'll have to be this. So we'll have to get in here and, of course, because I think we're activating a little setting here on the LED strip. More than likely. That's unfortunate. I was hoping I could just press this down and then toggle the power on and off, which I'm simulating here by pulling out one of these batteries, and it does not work. Alright, so what I did was I took this thing out of the little plastic shell that it comes in. It's still pretty cool. I probably might put it back in there. But all it is really is just a little circuit board with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 LEDs on it. And this is the switch area right here, this little thing. This is where the switch was on it. And it's just a contact point, so if I touch that, and that'll simulate the relays, I can change the pattern. Eventually it will shut off, but as long as I have it go back to this pattern, even if it ran like that during ambient, I think that would be kind of cool. So it's not really a lose situation here. And if it continued to run the whole time, I can't imagine that it would. It didn't on the batteries, but maybe it's going to. Maybe it'll stay running the whole time like this. Doesn't make any sense, but whatever. And then I can just have the relays switch. Just go switch one time and then go back during the shocking portion. And then as soon as that's over, I'll have it switch and then switch again. I thought one of these was off. It is, so I can actually switch off when I want to. Just by toggling that relay back and forth, I can flick it so that it makes this connection here. So I'm gonna do that. That should be pretty cool. Because of that spring. F***ing A. Ugh. Ooh. I just impaled myself with a spring. Oh. Right here. into the fingernail, underneath the fingernail. I just impaled myself with the spring. Ugh. Oh, that hurts like a son of a bitch. Oh. Well, Halloween. I wonder if any of my flesh is on this thing that just impaled me. Nope. So what happened was, this was hooked up here, and this was hooked up into the leg, and I took it off the leg and it slipped and went into my thumb like this. It was about that far in my thumb. I had to pull it out. Hurts like a son of a bitch too. Not really bleeding, but damn, does that hurt. Just got it wrapped in this blue pressure, like tape, whatever, because it feels good. So luckily I had a tetanus booster recently, so should be okay. Good f***ing times, dude. Somebody's getting a little ahead of himself.